I'm going to walk you through how I'm starting an API as a service business. Well, not really a business, it's more of a side hustle because it doesn't require too much of my intervention. Once I was done with it, I only need now to focus on getting clients. So maybe the first question you have is, what is API as a service? What does that even mean? So let me just use an example. So let's say here we have me or you. This is you. Then this is a waiter. So the context is we are currently in a restaurant. So you have the chef or the kitchen back here. So what typically happens is when you go to a restaurant, you give them an order. So you give the waiter an order. The waiter takes this order to the chef or the kitchen. And then once the chef is done preparing the food, the waiter brings you back the food, right? Pretty straightforward. So now what I'm trying to do in my case is I want to build more of like this backend. So for context, every time I say backend, I would say this is the backend. Set a color, maybe green. And then take down the opacity. So everything on the green side is considered backend, and then this is maybe front end. So for my current case, what I want to do is, let me just give you a bit more context in case you don't know me or you've never come across my videos. So I started this series a while ago, maybe a month or two ago. What I was doing here is I took this model. This is an AI model. What it does is you give it a picture of the stock market, and then it gives you like this predictions, whether we are going up or down. It gives you predictions on your data set or on your chart. So mainly the way this was configured is it's supposed to work with an image. If you go down to the code they gave, so you see from the original authors, you're supposed to give an image and then give that image to the model, and then it's supposed to give you the prediction. What I did instead is, in this series, what I did was, instead of necessarily giving it an image, I would give it chart data, open, high, low, close, and then given the data, I would then render the image using that data, render an image using that data, then give that data to the model, and then have it give me back a prediction. So it's just like extra steps up here. And also the main reason for this was, so let's say you have a 17-inch screen. So you take that screenshot and give it to the model. We somehow need to pre-process the image to get it to look something like this. Somebody else maybe has a 15-inch, they take a screenshot, somebody is using their phone. So you see there's like this whole processing step that would need to do in order to have like this kind of small image. But now when I use just the data points, I can be able to control the kind of image that is being rendered every time, as long as the data has the open, high, low, close. I now have control of the kind of image that's being given to the model. So it just removes so much headache as opposed to this approach. So that was the only main change I did. On top of that is I made this work for MT5 with an MT5 bot. Just take you to the code. So in this example, I went a step further. I made it work with, so you have a bot, a trading bot, an MT5 trading bot, and then you attach that to a chart as you normally do. But in the background, we're making requests to the model. So you see that whole requests thing. So that's like having a waiter in the middle, and then who goes to the AI and then asks the AI, this is the data I was given, please tell me the trend prediction. So the waiter doesn't really matter whether you're coming from, whether the data is from MT5, Boom 500, whether it's MT4, whether you're using your own customized system. the waiter doesn't care. As long as you've structured the data the way it's supposed to be structured, it's going to give you back a prediction. So that was the main idea from this code. However, this code is not something you could use like with very many systems. It's not as scalable. So what I've just gone to do is the implementation is I've made this into a more production ready code. So I'm just taking on the heat of hosting the model, making sure everything is up and running all the time. At the same time, I have to keep monitoring my system to make sure it's something hasn't gone wrong. Like I'm just taking that burden of hosting the model as opposed to having users have to figure out how does Python work? How do I make this work with XYZ data? And then from this example, I was mainly using a scheduler to run the code depending on how many hours you want. So for example, this example was the code would run every 6 hours. So if you needed to do this for 1 minute, it seems counterproductive to have a scheduler. You could just have an API endpoint. So that is what I am trying to do as a side hustle. Just taking on this burden of hosting every tech support thing that comes with this. That is my burden. So what my users will be getting at the end of the day is I give them an API key and an API endpoint, and that's it. So I'm going to get into that. So let me just explain a little bit more here. So let's say this is an MT5 bot. Then let's make maybe an MT4 bot. I'm sure you can do this with MT4 code. Then this is somebody working in Python. This is somebody else working in maybe JavaScript. Then maybe somebody else working even with like the Derive API. They do have a good API for whatever language. Could be Python, JavaScript, Golang, whatever. So all these guys have their own thing going, but they want to incorporate the AI, right? So on this end, I would be having the AI model. So this is sitting on my server. What happens is every time they need to make a prediction on the current events, so maybe they're using Python and they're working with maybe the Google stock, for example, they just send requests and then they send me the data for the Google stock as open, high, low, close. Then my AI model will then give them a prediction back. So this interaction, as you can see, let me just zoom out a bit. Oops. So the problem with this interaction, as you can see, I need to somehow know this is Jane's bot, this is John's bot, this is whoever's bot, right? Or this is whoever's system. Somehow I need to be able to figure out who my user is. So that's where we come in at what do we call it? Oh wait, I've jumped so many things. I'm currently at API keys. Okay, let me just backtrack a bit. But yeah, I'll come back to the API keys thing. But for now, maybe I should tell you how I did some research on pricing. So a good place to start with pricing on APIs mainly is this site. They have very many APIs as a service. So these are just in the finance space. As you can see, there are not so many. And on top of that, the challenge is, I haven't found one that's doing exactly what I'm trying to do. So it's been quite a bit of kind of stressful a bit to figure out how are people pricing this kind of thing. So anyway, I went through a couple of this and the consensus is you need to somehow have a free tier. So let me just open a few of these so that you can see. If you go to pricing, so they have a basic tier. I'm sure these ones too have a basic tier. So everybody, it seems like most of them already have a basic tier of 800 requests. Is 500 requests per day, per month, 500 per month, right? So for me, I'm not having a free tier because you can just go find the code on GitHub. If you just took this code and follow these instructions to make sure you have all these things installed, and then you run the scheduler, this should be fine. So why I didn't see a need to necessarily have a free tier, but maybe that might change in future depending on how, I'm going to be adaptive and see how that goes. So for pricing, that's how I ended up with a 3-step pricing, a 3-tier pricing. So I did some research. Let me just open the spreadsheet. Okay. So for the requests, the number of requests per hour, depending on which time frame you're on. Let me just explain this a bit. If I were to go to this example, so you see I have like, these are my users. Maybe this is somebody on MT5, MT4, Python, blah, blah. So let's say this person on Python is currently using this on M5, the 5-minute time frame. This one is currently using it on the daily time frame. So you see in a day, this person will only have made 1 request, while this person who is on the 5-minute time frame, this 5 minutes per hour, they're making 12 requests. Per month, they'll be making 8,640 requests. So I need to make a tier in such a way that somebody who was maybe running this bot every minute of every day in a month, they need to like have their own tier, which is definitely higher because they're using my system even more. I also need to have a system where maybe somebody has put the bot in one bot in maybe the 1 day, the 4-hour time frame, and the 15 minutes. So they don't have that many requests coming in per month. So I needed to somehow figure out this kind of different people. So that's how I settled on the first tier will be $20. The second will be $70 for 50,000 requests, and then $140 for 150,000. So the goal is to make the last tier the most attractive by default, and then make the first tier not as attractive. But for this is actually really generous. For 10,000 requests per month, the best, you can actually put this on a 5-minute time frame, and it will run every 5 minutes for the rest of the month, and you still have very many more requests remaining for that month. So you could put one bot in a 5-minute time frame, and then maybe have another in like what, a 2-hour or a 4-hour, and you'd still be within this range, right? So for the other person, this 70 pounds person, they could easily put this in the 1-minute time frame, making it run the whole month without any interruption, and they'll still have like an excess of over 6,000. So now this last tier is for somebody who maybe you have, let's say you want to have like maybe 5 bots. One is running on Meta, the other one is running on Google. Let me just show you some backtest results I had. Let's go back to the code here. I did this backtest over, I think, 5 years, and for some few assets. So you can see, for example, Meta did really well on the 30 minutes, even on the 1 hour. Then for some reason, the more I increased the time frame, kept performing poorly. And so Google did also well. So I did a 5-year backtest, and this did incorporate COVID, the layoffs that happened over the couple of last 2 years, maybe this year, last year, layoffs that also increased the stock price. COVID really hit. Can't remember whether COVID was really good for Google and Meta. I can't remember, but I did incorporate like really big events in the backtest, and this is what I got. So let's say you're that person who wants to do this on Meta, the 30 minutes. So unfortunately, I didn't do any for the 1 minute. It was taking forever, like to just have these results. It took probably 3 or 4 days just running the thing constantly. I think I lost power at some point, and then I just gave up on backtesting on every time frame. But yeah, this is what I got. So let's say you want to do this on, let's go back here. You want to do this on maybe on the 1 minute time frame for maybe 3 or 4 bots. If that was the kind of person you are, and maybe you have 3 bots, so that means this times 3 is definitely less than 150,000. Could easily do that and still have less leftovers. Yes, so that was the pricing and the research. So for what I'm using to interface, not to interface, what I'm using to sell is Stripe. Stripe is very easy to set up. Let me just show you a landing page for the 20. So what it looks like. So this is all handled on Stripe. You come here, you give me your credit card information. I'm going to add other types of payments, maybe PayPal and others. But for now, just activated the cards, but I will activate maybe others so that I can capture a bigger audience. So from the user's perspective, all they do is they come on Stripe, they pay, and then they get sent an email from me. So I'm going to cover more on how that works. But for now, let me just go over hosting. So for hosting, I decided to go with Google Cloud. I've always loved their products. I'm very proficient with Google Cloud. So I didn't want to start like learning a whole tech stack, Azure or something. I've used AWS before. I just find it not as interesting or as well formatted. I don't know what, I think it's the UI UX aspect of it. Google just has a cleaner UI in general as opposed to AWS. I haven't done too much Azure stuff. So I don't want to like waste time picking up other things. So for now, I'm just using GCP. So the interesting thing about this is I actually started with the lowest tier on GCP. I kept so what I was doing is I would push the code to the instance, to the GCP instance, then test the product. But for some reason, I was not getting really good results when I had anything less than this. So I did try this on 4 GB, I think, and 2 GB, if I'm not wrong. But I tested it on lower tiers than this, and the performance was just not as good. So I ended up picking, so in my opinion, this was the cheapest instance I could get on GCP for this project. So hosting is all done on GCP. I'm currently running a Linux VM that's Ubuntu 20. So that was for hosting. The costing, so let's just go to costs. So the VM I use is on the E series. Yeah, this. So per month, I'll be paying like $64 for this instance. So that's as far as costing goes. I think I've also included that in my spreadsheet. I'll go back to the spreadsheet a bit later to explain maybe how much it will really cost to run this project in the long run. I also have a domain. I've been having this domain for a while now. I pay this is a monthly fee. Maybe I pay, I think, $12 or $8. And then Google Workspace, I pay, I think, $6 per month or maybe 7. I think it's in euros. So let's say 7. Okay, let's just say 8 euros. So this is as far as the initial cost goes. Of course, I don't have any development costs because I'm a software engineer myself. So I did everything myself, the coding, the hosting, the DevOps, everything. So that covers cost. So let's go over some security. So the first is API keys. Yeah, I'd jumped ahead of myself earlier. So let me explain that now. So let's say these are my users and I need to know user 1. So now because we do have like tiers. So if you're on tier 1, you're on 10,000 requests. Tier 2, you're on 50,000 and so forth. I need to know that this is John who is on tier 1 and so far they've used up 1,000 requests. So I know they have 9,000 remaining. To do that, I have to somehow my system, so this is more of my system. Let's just say this is my system. When we say AI model might be confusing a bit. So within my system, I have functionalities. So the first one is I need to somehow issue API keys. Font is so small. I need to issue API keys. API keys is what identifies the person. So let's say this is John. John sends me a request. They have to send the request with their API key. And with the API key, I can now say, okay, this is John. They're actually my customer, and they have 10,000 more remaining requests. So I need to give them access to the AI. So of course, I have to somehow issue the API keys, and then decode the keys. Other functionalities in my systems are maybe I do have some form of sending emails. The delivery for everything is through email. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself again, but let's keep going. Issue API keys, decode. Okay. So going back to this, the API keys. So let me just show you like with an example. I don't want this to be too theoretical. So I have some sample code of how I'm using the API keys. So let's say this is the data. So I have Wamaitha, my name, and my email. So probably wondering where those things are coming from. If we go back to Stripe, right? So this is Stripe. Somebody comes, makes a purchase. I'm going to add for their name. Oh yeah, we even have a name here. So somebody comes to Stripe, makes a purchase. So they have to give me their email and their name and the country of origin, etc. So what happens behind the scenes is once this transaction is successful, so Stripe has this thing they call webhooks. Maybe I can draw something here a bit. So this is Stripe. This is Stripe. So we have Stripe here, and then this is my system. Okay. So Stripe has this thing where once an event has happened, they can send that event to your system. So in my case, the event here will be an invoice has been paid. So once you come to the checkout, Stripe makes sure your card has money, your card is legit, blah blah. They handle all that for me, and then once this transaction has been made, they can now send me an event. So the Stripe event comes with your name and your email. That is why I'm able to send you an email using the email you gave me on checkout. So maybe something I can foresee a situation where somebody gives me maybe a fake email here or an email that expires in, I don't know, 10 minutes or something. Okay, so those are some of the challenges I think I'll be having. But for now, assuming everybody is good to give me a legitimate email, somewhere in my system, once this event comes, I need to send them an email, and the email has to have the API keys that they'll be using with the bot. So I have to somehow issue an API key and send an email with the API key. So the API key has to be data that identifies you, but if somebody was to intercept this request, they will not know you. So let's say the data has your name and your email. They will never know that data because it's encrypted. So for that, I'm using JWT, JSON Web Tokens. So let me just show you an example. So let's say this is the data that came from Stripe. Your name is Omaitha, your email. Stripe will also notify me of the product you purchased. And let's say, I'm calling it bronze, I think. Let's say the product is bronze. Yeah, so this is the data that came from Stripe. And then in here, what maybe I can do, if data product, if data product is equals to bronze. So what I want to do is maybe give you the number of maximum requests, right? Maximum requests is let's say 10,000. Well, I can also make it okay, let's just go with that. So the maximum request is 10,000, and then I need to add the maximum requests to the data object is equals to maximum requests, something like that. So once we have that, then I can do the encoding of your data. Let me just, yes, I don't think there's anything else. So data, the secret. So how JWT works is you give it some piece of data and then you give it a secret. So this is a key you're supposed to have. I have that in my ENV, some super secret key. You give it a secret and then use an algorithm. There are very many algorithms, so I'm just going to use this, which then encodes your payload. And then this other function will decode the payload. So let me just run this so that you can visualize it instead of me just rambling. So Python auth keys. So you can see this is the encoded. Okay, maybe I could print like a line to make it clear. So you can see this is the encoded payload. So this is what will be sent from here. So whenever this person is sending me the requests together with their data, their candlestick data, they give me that API key. So within my system, I will then decode the code, the key they sent. You can see I already know which product they're on and the maximum requests that they are allowed. I'm going to cover how I am making sure they stay under 10,000, and I'm sure that's part of the next steps. Yeah. So before I just finish about the API keys, I feel like I'm just giving too much information. So for the API keys, so the goal is if you were to guess my secret, this secret, you could easily decode what you could easily encode and decode the secrets. No. So the key is that if you did know what my super secret key phrase is, you could easily start your own side business and bypass my whole system by just plugging in the secret and the encoded payload. If you actually knew what I am looking for in the payload, you could do this and then pass in the key that you already know and use this algorithm. Well, of course, now you'd have an upper hand because I've showed you a bit of maybe what I have done. But yeah. So to prevent a very easily guessable key, I've used a hashing algorithm. So this is mainly how we generate SSH keys. This I use to like log in into servers and stuff. So you see, if you are to generate one with this is such a big key. So if you were to use something like this, it would be very hard for somebody to guess this. Well, probably impossible, honestly, I think. Let's just copy that so that you can see the difference. If I was to replace that with some super secret key and then run the same program again, you can clearly see I've encoded the same exact data, but I'm generating a very different kind of encoding. You can see even from the ending alone. So for you to be able to decode this, you would need this key, this long key. So that is part of, let's go back here. So that is what I used for the JWTs. So other considerations for security I've done is fail to burn. Go here. So probably heard of DDoS. So people who just like send you so many requests, they just bombard your server with requests such that everything gets locked. So one open source solution is fail to ban, such that you give it rules. You say, if this person has sent XYZ request in this time, ban their IP from accessing my service. So that's a security consideration I've made. And then Stripe only webhook. So if we were to go back to Miro a bit, you see I have Stripe, and then Stripe has to hit a service within my system, right? If you knew the exact service, how to hit that service from wherever server, whichever server you have, you could easily bypass my system as well and then start issuing. So if my system, what am I trying to say? If my system doesn't recognize that this came from Stripe, I would somehow be losing out as the owner of the product because you have not paid. And this is triggered when somebody pays on Stripe. So within my system, I've done what we call whitelisting on Nginx. They have some really nice guide here. So what happens is, so within my server, I have something like this. Just here, you put on all the Stripe. Let me see. I'm sure I did that. Yeah. So Stripe even gives you a list of IP addresses where all the events originate from. So all this is what I put just here in the Nginx server block. I'm using Nginx as the reverse proxy to my API. So if you try to send a request to one of my endpoints that generates like the API keys, which is usually triggered when somebody makes a successful purchase, I've added that here. So if the original address is not from Stripe, it doesn't go through because I've only allowed Stripe related IPs and everybody else has been denied. So this could also be a good measure. Let's say at some point I do make like a dashboard that I've hosted on a very specific server. I could also add that here such that unless the request has originated from my dashboard, my server, maybe I need somebody to be doing like manually onboarding people. So let's say, for example, somebody wanted to do 1 million requests per month. I don't have the provision for that now, but in case I needed to like make this into like a legitimate SaaS application, I could easily do that just here on Nginx. Anyway, moving on. So rate limiting, maybe I should have started with this because it would have made more sense to start with this. Going back to this example, this person needs to make 10,000, this one needs to make 50,000, 100,000. Somehow I need to be tracking of how many requests they've made so far, how many requests are remaining. I need to figure out how many requests are remaining. If they used up like 70%, I need to somehow remind them, by the way, this service that you've used up XYZ. They get to 90%, I remind them again, or I encourage them to like upgrade to the next tier or something. So that's where rate limiting comes in. For this, I am using the Flask limiter. This is a Python package. It's also open source. So in this package, you can easily define how many you want. So for example, the Stripe endpoint, I don't expect that, well, I don't have a big audience. I don't expect that I'll be having 1 million people purchasing my product per second. So realistically, probably I'll be having maybe 1 or 2 sales per day. So maybe for this endpoint, I could say something like maximum of maybe 50 per day or something. As I get more traffic, I would maybe ramp that up. Same goes to my endpoint that's actually giving you the prediction. So inside here, I also have a service that gives prediction. Oh wow, I didn't realize 12. So in here, I have an endpoint that would be giving you the prediction. So for this endpoint, I need the person who maybe is making a request per minute. If they put that bot on like maybe 10 different assets, that means they'll be sending 10 requests per second. During the 1 minute mark, they'll be sending at that point 10 simultaneous requests. So somehow I need to figure out how many requests can I allow per second. So for that, I've gone with 10 requests per second to accommodate maybe somebody who has 10 trading bots. And they're putting that all on the M1. So that is rate limiting. The good thing about this package is it enables you to save this to a database. So you can see Redis, Memcache, MongoDB. For this, I went with MongoDB. So what that looks like is you send a request to me, and then I have a counter in my database that says, this is your 7th request, this is your 8th request. Every time you send a request, I do an increment. And once you get to, because I've already shown you the data, how it's being encoded, I already know your maximum. So when I check with my database and I see that you're currently at 7,000, I know you've used up 70%. By the time you get to 10,000, I'll have sent you several reminders to your email telling you of your usage. So that is rate limiting. That is how it works. The last security consideration I did was, of course, encryption, with making sure I have so the last consideration was SSL, making sure my endpoint is secured with SSL. For this, I ended up using Let's Encrypt. If you use Certbot, it's free to get SSL certificates, so I didn't have to pay for anything. And yeah, that's pretty much for security. The next part, the next consideration was observability. So observability has 3 parts mainly. You have logs, metrics, and traces. So I don't want to sound so jargony, so I had asked Gemini to explain the differences between the 3. So the metrics, logs, and traces. It used a really good analogy of somebody has a bakery. So you have like several ovens within the bakery, and those ovens each has maybe like sensors or something. So the metrics in this case will be maybe oven 1, or all ovens baked X number of loaves that day. And then the logs will be oven 2 malfunctioned at 10. So this is it's like you go from just a general overview of, we have 10 ovens, oven 1 baked 3 loaves, oven 2 baked 20 loaves. And then once you have now the logs say, oh yeah, oven 2 actually malfunctioned at 10, which is probably why it baked 3 loaves instead of 10 like the others. And then you get even more granular with traces. So traces are like having a video recording that's consistently showing what is happening within your ovens. So for metrics and logs, I haven't done anything, to be quite honest. I'm just using the default on GCP. We can go to my console and show you that. As far as traces go, I'm using OpenObserve. So by default, GCP will give me metrics and logs. Then you can see here I can also choose according to the severity of what happened within my VM. Same case goes to metrics. Like yesterday, I was doing some testing. You can see that I used up XYZ amount of CPU, etc. For traces, I'm using OpenObserve, which is currently baked into the code. Yeah, so this is for traces. I'm using OpenObserve, but you can use all of them. You can use OpenObserve to do metrics and logs as well. It's just that I didn't want to do that. Don't want to like set up more things, because for logs, if you were to set up your logs, you need to do some extra steps. Same with metrics, but I just wanted to use traces for my case. So for the traces, I have why is it not showing? Let me just I thought I'd already done a filter. God damn it. Mm, service name. What? Let me see. I'm trying to figure out why it's not showing. Maybe I need to do that. Months. Oh yeah, there we go. So this is already baked into the this comes in the code. You have to do this within the code so that you can have very granular data. So I have two endpoints. This one comes from Stripe. This one is hit by the Stripe events, and this one is hit by trading bots making asking for predictions from my system. For OpenObserve, I also have set up alerts. You can set up alerts such that when something happens, so for example, I've set up codes. Maybe you send a request to my system and then the API fails or something. I do get an alert on Slack. This is what it looks like. I have an alerts channel that just sends the alerts. So this will keep me on my toes in case something happens. I can check on it before users start complaining. So that's pretty much it on observability. I've also covered alerts. So the next thing is load testing. So maybe the question you have is, this VM costs $64. How many people can I serve with this VM before I get to a place of I actually need to upgrade, or something is definitely wrong? Do I need to add more RAM? Do I need to add more space? Do I need to add more CPUs? So a good way to figure this out is using load testing and performance testing. For this, I've used Locust. Because my system is Python, they do have Python documentation for this. So maybe I can show you with just an example. So here I have two endpoints. One is called test. The other one is called test limit. This has the limiter where I'm saying I need you to do 2 requests per second. This one has no limit, right? So let me just say test success. And then this one is just success, maybe with limiter. So to run this, I would need to run Flask. So this is running on port 5000. I use something like this. Send a request. What happened? Let me just start a new request. That was okay. So if I come to this, the URL for this is /test /test. So test success, and then test limit success with limiter. So if you were to try, so we're saying 2 requests per second, so 1, 2. Why is it not limiting? Is that not 2 requests per second? Or I'm not fast enough? Okay, let's say 2 requests per minute. Wow, still not working. That is sad. Makes me wonder. What if we remove the defaults? I've lost my train of thought. So let me just show you with an example. So here I have two endpoints, one with test, then test limiter. It's supposed to actually be seconds. Just 2 per second. I'm on 2 per second. Okay. So test limiter. I misspelled it. Test limit. Success, success, success. Something's going on. Have I not applied the limiter to the app? I have. The remote address. Okay, let me first debug this. Because limiter is equals to limiter. One per second. Per second. Is it not working? Okay, let's try with wait. Okay. 1 per second. Just take this. Oh, I've seen the problem. So with the limiter first, instead of, is it not the other way around? App is above the limiter here. That was a bug. Now let's test it. Has the server reloaded? Yes. Yes, you see. So we're saying 1 per second. We go back here. If you go above 1 per second, you get an error. So this 429, I've also included that in Open Observe in case somebody goes over that limit so they can start figuring out, do I reach out to them and follow up, etc. That seems to have been a bug. I'm sure I tested the production code doesn't have that. I just threw together this Flask endpoint for this demo. What was I trying to show you? Oh yeah. So locust, right? So with locust, what you need is you have a file that you're doing testing. So for this, I am testing both endpoints, test and test limit. Just make sure it's spelled correctly. If you follow the docs, once you install locust, all you have to do is locust in your command line. What happened? Address is already in use 8089. npx kill 8089. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, so if you were to go to this, so the number of the users we want our current system to have is maybe 10. We also want to ramp up users by 2 maybe. Our host is 5,000 currently. Maybe we want to, okay, let's just do that so that you can see. Don't forget you already have a rate limit right now. So you can see our test limit is already failing so many times because we do have that limit. Once it's reached, it responds with 429, which is considered failure. But our endpoint that doesn't have any limits, you can see we just have 0 right now. You can also visualize that using the chart. You can see it's real time. So it's trying to simulate if users were currently using our system. We said 10 users, I think. Yeah. And as expected, the one with the rate limit will definitely be failing every now and then. So this is how we do load testing in short. It makes you figure out what is failing on your system, what needs more work. For example, I saw if I did too many requests to the AI backend, let's say more than 10, this is how I actually came up with the 10, a maximum of 10 per second, because anytime I would go above it, I would get a higher failure rate. And the goal is to make sure for now I don't have a lot of support work going on. So that is load testing. Let me just stop this. That is how I perform load testing, which also informed my 10 per second. And that's how I came to the number of 10. So 10 concurrent users per second. So people who are on the last tier, the third tier, the highest tier, I can support 10 people without the need for me to upgrade, or that is also dependent on the amount of bandwidth I'm getting from these guys. So maybe if you were to go to, where's my spreadsheet? It was at pricing research. If I go to my spreadsheet, all this is determined by the number of packets you're sending. So if somebody sends me like maybe data points for the last maybe 3 years, that's such a huge payload. If it goes above 5 MBs, that would also impact my system. If it goes above or below, that means I am working maybe efficient, my system working more efficiently because it's not having too much payload per request. That also contributes to how many requests you can actually handle at any given time, because the payload has to be stored somewhere. It's stored in memory. If you have like really big payloads, means you're using up more of your memory being used up to store the payloads before they're being processed also means your system is slowing down, etc, etc. So all the numbers I've done here are for a maximum of 5 MB, which I saw was the equivalent of you providing data like for the past 1 week on the 1 minute time frame. Yeah. So that was load testing. So for fulfillment, if we were to go here, so somebody pays on Stripe, we generate an API key. So we generate an API key and then pass that API key along to the email that you used, which is why I'm hoping people will be using legitimate emails. So let's go, maybe I can just show you an example email. So this is what the email looks like. It's very simple, straightforward. Then they'll get their API key. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I should update this and also include the endpoint they're supposed to use to test. This doesn't work in case you try this. As you can see, it's not even in the format of the GWT that we saw. This was just when I was testing, but the email looks like this. I've also included an instructions doc right there where I show them how to use this on MT5 specifically, because most of my one of the clients is MT5, right? I'm also providing the bot for them for free anyway. So if you're on MT5, you can just purchase the API keys and it's definitely plug and play for them. However, if you want to use this on like your own system, or you want to go and develop an MT4 bot or whatever, I am still yet to write documentation code for that, but I've already done the implementation in Python. So I have some sample code. So maybe for this, I'll create a page that has sample code for different languages. And then if you're a dev, you can just plug and play on that. So the reason why I'm not, maybe a good question that may come up is why I'm not listing my API on Rapid API is they also take a commission. So if you're charging somebody $20, they do take a commission of that money on top of the Stripe fees I'm still paying. So it's like, I don't know whether they have a discoverability operation on their system such that if somebody new comes to their landing page, they could recommend my product. I'm not sure whether they have that, but they help with the whole managing of API keys. You don't have to think about much about that. They help you manage that. They also help you manage so let's say billing cycles, somebody has purchased this, I need to charge them again next month. They also help with that and other things. You can check out their website. But I'm already doing that with Stripe already. And either way, if I was still going to do marketing, I might as well do all these things myself and, pocket as much money as I can. So for customer management, the best part about this is Stripe has a really neat feature for this. So once you log in here using the same email that was given when you paid, you'll see all my services on the dashboard instead of being vertical. Let me just show you because I have a sample application. Looks I don't have an email. Oh, because I haven't made an actual purchase. It was a test product. I thought they would send me an email even if it was anyway. Once you log in, I've done this with several other providers, so I know this works. Once you log in, you can see an unsubscribe button, or maybe if you want to move to a higher tier. So as far as billing is concerned, Stripe is handling all that for me. Email alerts. The reason why I am if I were to go to oh I didn't save that. Okay, I cleared my console, but if I were to go back to the authentication example, let me just do that real quick. But to use the OAuth example, because you already know what product you purchased and how much requests you have with that purchase. Once you get to like 50%, I send you a notification. Once you get to 70%, I send you a notification. Once you get to 90%, I also send you a notification. So that's what I meant here by email alerts. So documentation of code, I have working code. It's just writing the documentation. I'm going to do that. But for now, I don't want to overstress it because if I'm posting this on YouTube, majority of you are not that technical. I get very few requests of maybe somebody ran my code and something didn't work. Very few. Most of the time it's I saw you code on YouTube, trading bots, can you code this for me? So my assumption is most of my viewers are not that technical. So I'm not like stressing too much about this. So for production, I have actually tested my system to see whether it's been working. That is why I have the spikes on the metrics and the logs. I was doing this yesterday. So for another video I'm making, I am trying to figure out which is the best combination of indicators that would best work with this AI model, right? So it's one thing to say the AI model says up or down, but what if I'm using RSI? What if I'm using MACD? Does this work best with this combination of technical indicators? So for that, I was testing, I think 3 yesterday, and they were running at 1 request per minute. So it was on the 1 minute time frame. I let that run for the entire day, which was also good to show me a sample of what would happen if I had 3 concurrent users. And this is what I had. So I have done prod testing. I also found a few bugs that I also solved yesterday. So that was good. So challenges in this whole thing has been emails. I don't know what's happening with this industry. I applied to Amazon. So Amazon has a product, Amazon SNS, I think. So Amazon has this product. I applied to it and I said I want to be sending emails to people, and they rejected my request. I also tried, I think, Brevo. It's also a free platform, and of course SendGrid. They also like locked me out. So I'm not sure what's happening with this industry, but I'm assuming there are so many like scams. So because of that, I have to use Gmail, the Gmail API. That's what I'm currently using to send emails. Wow, Gmail API docs. How is Google so bad at that SEO for their own product? Yes, so I'm using the Gmail API. Because of this, I have no choice but to have the workspace. Otherwise, if you were to use SendGrid, if you don't have too much traffic, you could easily hack with it. Even Brevo. So I don't know, do people like lie and say what the use case is? I'm not sure, but that was the first challenge. Second challenge is I needed to use Stripe. Stripe is not supported. Stripe is not supported in my country currently. So if you were to go to Stripe supported countries, you need to find your country here. If it's not listed here, you can't. Oh, wait. What does this mean? The last time I checked, it wasn't here. Oh yeah, they merged with Paystack. Yeah, I saw that. So if you were to use Stripe, the last time I checked it, actually, it wasn't being supported, but for now you can sign up for Paystack, it seems, for countries that are not supported by Stripe. So my workaround was I had to set up a business in another country, a Stripe supported country. In this case, it was UK. If I'm being honest, I went with it because of the cheapest option I found. I paid, I think, $180 to set up a company in the UK. That also introduces some form of tax complications. If I do have clients, hopefully I'll have clients. Hopefully I have clients even in other products that I'll be selling. If I do have clients, I have to pay company tax in the UK. I have to maybe also pay digital tax. And then if I pay myself, I'm also paying personal tax in my country. It's like an added overhead. Because I don't know much about taxes in the UK, I would maybe have to front that cost to maybe get somebody who's done taxes in the UK to help me. I don't know how much that would cost. Whereas if I was doing everything locally, I just get one tax person who would be doing like my company tax, my personal income tax, and that's it. And it's also something I could also do myself because I have access to very many accountants locally. So those are the main, let's say these are 3 challenges. Maybe another challenge I am sure I'll face is the whole fake emails thing. I'm sure I'll face that. But anyway, for now, I don't want to overthink it. If you overanalyze, you'll never get anything done. So, of course, all this, having set up all this, it's all useless if I do not have a way to get this out to people. So, for that, I am doing marketing myself. I have to do some form of marketing. So, YouTube. So, my current plan is, of course, need a better sales page. What I have is mediocre at best. Let me show you. I don't even have a landing page, to be quite honest. I'm just sending people to this post that I made explaining what I was doing. Yeah, it's not all that exciting. So I have to do that. I'm not good at copywriting. My background is in engineering, so I don't know much about copywriting, but I have to. My other marketing plan is emails. So let me just show you my newsletter. So this is all time. So at one point, I had almost 300 people on my list. I decided to clean it because I was having really, really poor open rates, like 10%. So I decided to clean my list because what was happening initially is if you came to my YouTube channel and then wanted a bot, you'd be taken to Gumroad, you download the bot, and that's it. I was not doing anything with the emails. So I migrated all those guys from Gumroad to Beehive. And then I was just having terrible, which is fair because they had not opted in for that. I had just terrible open rate. So I decided to clean my list. It went down to like 90 or something at some point. And then so let's see. Quarter to date. So it's slowly going back up. I'm getting better open rates, better click-through rates. So this click-through rate is very high because I had like maybe 4 or 5 people open and click. But now I'm having like many more people open, but not all of them click. But maybe I'm having many more people click than they did when I had terrible open rates, right? So it's like I'm building my list all over again. And to make sure it doesn't happen that I'm having like this inactive subscribers, I've set up automations. So I have evergreen content Tuesday and Thursday. So every Tuesday, my list will be getting something from me. I'll just show you my workflows. So you can see every Tuesday I have something, and it almost always has a bot within it. So that's for Tuesdays. For Thursdays, that's for Thursdays. That's for Tuesdays. Thursdays, I'm doing mainly for Thursdays, I'm mainly doing candlesticks. This is because I want to launch a candlestick product eventually. I'll make a video all about it after this. But on Thursdays, they can expect that. And then now my normal posts, which and are what you see on my newsletter, will be going out on Wednesdays. So this will be going out on Wednesdays. So these are more interesting in such that maybe it's a business idea I'm having, a back test I'm having, or some AI thing happened. Yeah, and this will probably most of the time never make it to my YouTube channel as well. So that's what my viewers will be getting on, not viewers, but my email list will be getting on Wednesdays. So Tuesday, Thursday, in case I have no content to send out on Wednesday, they have something to keep them occupied. The good thing about this is if you're to subscribe to my newsletter right now, you'd be set up on Tuesday, day 0, right? You'd be set up on Tuesday, day 0, right here. While somebody else on the same Tuesday, they could be getting this, the next person, this, etc, etc. The good thing about this is it's like an infinite content glitch, such that if I was to get sick, as long as I have content nobody has seen on Tuesday and Thursday, everybody gets sent something. So part of that is I want to introduce giveaways, maybe find cross promotions, and maybe give discount codes or something. I'm going to introduce that. If you know Matt, he runs a very successful newsletter. He did cover some of this in some of his workshops. He's called Matt. Yes. Should follow him on Twitter. He also has a newsletter, a really nice newsletter as well. So I've really found his content to be very valuable. So this Grow Letter is his newsletter. He always sends like really, really nice hacks to grow your newsletter. So part of it is what I was showing you here. Giveaways, cross promotions, and sales. So I'm going to incorporate that into my email. And yeah, I've also told you about the automation sequences. Part of the sequences is my footer. So let me just show you an example of the emails. If I was to preview this, this is my footer. This shows up on all my emails. So part of this is all emails I sent out will be having this part. So in case somebody wants to make a purchase, this will be linked to now the sales page. So that will be part of emails. The reason why I'm doing emails is because I already have the platform. I already have the numbers starting to go up, which is good. And also, of course, one of the advantages of Beehive is you get ads. So for example, on Wednesday, I had an ad for this studio. I haven't done many, haven't even earned that much, but it's like $11, $13. So that's for ads. I also have boosts where if you were to sign up to my newsletter, I show you other recommended newsletters in the same space as forex trading. So when that person subscribes, I also get a kickback, for example. So you can see, for example, Bullseye. I was doing this for them a while ago. They were paying per person. So for every person who would sign up from my recommendation, I'd get $3. That was going great. So I have how many? Live. So I have these 3 for now. So much money, but this is actually enough to cover the Beehive subscription. All I need to do is keep making content. People keep coming to my content. If they sign up with my recommendation, I kind of offset the money needed for Beehive. Okay. So I've also showed you the automation sequences. YouTube. So my biggest not issue with YouTube is I just get paralyzed by the whole editing process. I feel like it's a beast on its own. I need to somehow figure out animations, things are moving, blah blah. It's so overwhelming for me. That's why I'm rarely ever consistent. Like I've built so many bots that I've never released because every time I want to release something, I just feel like, how do I even do this? I feel like I sound so bad on mic. It is like there's so much that goes into it. But following the latest Hamuzi videos, he's like super scaled back on over editing. But he is him. He has millions of followers. If I don't do the over editing, how am I supposed to build an audience fast enough? So anyway, going forward, I think I'm going to experiment. I've tried the whole over editing aspect of some of my videos. I've done something like more educational. I've done like just me sitting at the laptop explaining code. I've done me sitting on the laptop actually coding the thing. And so this will be the next format I test. Me just sitting here with a checklist and blabbing and seeing how that performs. The only way to know is to test. Otherwise, interestingly, the over edited have such a sharp drop off. It's like people come to the video, they see the over editing, and then they just drop off at some point. But the ones where I'm just like boring, and I'm saying maybe something super technical, I can see like the drop off starts once the content becomes extremely technical, not because somebody got bored I don't even know. Anyway, I'm overanalyzing it. I'm gonna do a few of this format, see how that goes. This will be such a long video. I don't even know if anybody will get to this point of the blabbing, but yeah. So that's YouTube. Another strategy I want to use, which I'll also incorporate on the automation. So if you were to come to my newsletter, right here, all free bots. So I've made all these videos, all these bots in the past. For example, MACD ADX. So you see that going back to that thought process of which is the best combination of technical indicators that best work with this AI model. So maybe the first starting point I could start is incorporate it with like the MACD ADX bot, all this. So this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is like content for 6 Tuesdays. How many weeks is that? So many. 6 weeks. So I can do that for like content for Tuesdays. And then now, because I'm also saying this is the results with the AI model, I can now pitch my product and say, by the way, if you want a hassle-free experience with the whole AI thing, I have a product for that. So that's my other marketing plan. The other marketing plan is Discord. So I do have a Discord. I forgot this was supposed to be here. So what I was initially doing, oh wow. What I was initially doing with Discord is, you see all these bots, I would put them on a Windows VM. Once I put them on the Windows VM, I'd then send requests of when conditions were met to Discord. But I think I had like maybe 2 people on the Discord, so it didn't make sense for me to be paying, I think I was paying like $10 per month for the Windows VM VPS. I just stopped it because I felt like I didn't have enough traction on Discord, but maybe I'll go back to that. The more I test. So this will be giving like two types of experiences. One, if you're not very technical and you still want to have access to somehow the trading bot, but now the problem is if I say I'm putting the trading bot only on 30 minutes on the meta stock, going back to the back test results, right? If I was putting it on meta 30 minutes and you want it to be on the 5 minutes, you have no control over that. So I'll go back to that. My Discord is not opening. I don't know what's happening. Okay, there we go. Wow. Okay. So in case it doesn't open, I'll link my Discord below. You can go check out. I'm going to go back to sending the signals to Discord. I have different channels for the different bots. I was doing that. I stopped because it didn't make sense. There were no people on Discord. So other considerations in future is, I had mentioned this before, access control. This is when maybe I want to have like maybe an admin somewhere who is doing manual onboarding of people. Maybe somebody paid via a method that's currently not on Stripe. Let's say for now, for example, we have, let's go to Discord. Let me just finish the Discord before I lose that train. Yes, you can see I was sending requests to all my, this was a test, yeah? So all the profitable bots, they each had a channel. For example, this was the RSI B band one. I also include like the link on where to download it. So maybe a strategy I'll use going forward is have like a channel specifically for the AI. Maybe now I say AI RSI bands can be sending the signals to this channel, for example. But now the challenge here is not the challenge, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing for the person who wants who doesn't have the money. For the person who has the money, they can always purchase the bot and make use of it wherever they want. So you see, I didn't have very many people on Discord. I haven't checked this Discord in a minute, but these are not too many. 11 people and like 2 of them are bots. Okay, 9, excluding myself, 8. I suppose that's not too bad. Yeah, so that is my other marketing tactic. The main reason for this would be that people would be having like my product on top of their mind. So let's say somebody doesn't check their emails. Every time they get Discord notifications, they could be like, oh wait, I think this is working, let me make a purchase or something. This is just a way of me having points to interact with more users, although this is very automated. I suppose a future consideration would be maybe doing this but for Telegram. I see a lot of people in this space doing Telegram channels. Maybe I could automate what I'm doing on Discord on Telegram. That's for future. So for the future, I feel like I've rambled for so long. So for the future is CI/CD is, so you see like how the code, this code for example right now is currently on my laptop. It somehow needs to get on my server and then get deployed so that the users can use it. So that continuous integration, continuous deployment of code that we call CI/CD. For now, I'm not doing that because I'm not necessarily making any changes to the code. If there are any changes, they might be very minimal bugs that I don't need to over-engineer my solution. So access control, I've explained this before. Containerization, this would also come where like I'm serving like so many people. Let's say I have on any given second, I'm having like 1 million requests. For that now, I would fully have to go pro into the DevOps and do like things like Kubernetes and then do the containerization on Docker, etc. So this would only ever happen if like I have very, very many users. So for now, I am not over engineering my solution. I feel like this is more than enough for now. But once the need arises, I'll definitely do it. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So in a given month, I'll be spending $72 per month on this product. Thank God I'm not having to pay for anything I'm not paying for anything else. So let's see. So the math I did here was, because I'm paying 64, this is actually 60, let's say just 65. So the math here I have is, if you look at this column, is for me to be able to afford 64 plus 40 is 105, right? So for me to afford Beehive in the VM, for Beehive is the automation, this is what I was showing, the automation stuff. That's for Beehive. For me to pay Beehive, it's like, I think $35 or $40 per month. But you've seen, if I have enough traffic, I can offset that with ads. But assuming I don't have that, so for me to have this 105, I would have to have at least 5, let's say 6 people, because you don't have a quota person. I would have to have 6 people on tier 1. And if they're only on tier 2, there'll be 2 people and 1 person on the 140. I've also, maybe I'll use some of these numbers while writing my sales page. So on the user side, this is how much I'm charging them. Also bear in mind, this is just revenue. I haven't paid taxes on this, haven't paid myself. if I had a dev, I would definitely have to pay them like so let's say I outsourced all this work to somebody. All this, they would have probably charged me, I don't know, let's say $500 or $600 if I was getting somebody, I don't know, maybe I could get somebody with cheaper, but let's just go with $500. That would somehow need to be paid from somewhere, or it will be part of the money I'll need to recoup before I can break even. But for now, the only cost I have is the VM and Beehive, so 105 per month. So assuming I don't make a profit on any of this, I would need at least 5, 6 people if they were on tier 1 only, tier 2, but I'm sure that's not how it goes, because you might have one person on tier 3, another person on tier 1, tier 2. So another thing to notice is if my current server can only handle as many people as possible, there's also the cost on the number of GBs. So for example, per month on my current VM, I think I'm getting 200 GB per month for free of payload. By payload, I mean you send my system data with backtest results that are 5 MB megapixel, not megapixel. Is it megapixel? It's not megapixel. Megabytes, yes. You send my system 5 megabytes. Somebody else sends 100 megabytes. Somebody else 1 GB. I get 200 GB of that, and that's just coming in. Don't forget, I'm also sending out like OpenObserve. I have to keep sending my traces to OpenObserve because it's on another separate server. So maybe I should add that. I should consider other observability options. Should consider that. Yes. So once I exceed the 200, I'm paying for every extra GB $0.085 dollars, which is why I was calculating this here. So you see, if I'm getting 200 GB per month free, that means if this person with this one bot and they only sent 5 megapixels, 5 megabytes. Sorry, I think I'm tired. I've rambled for so long. If they sent 5 MBs on every request and they send this many requests per month, this is how many MBs they'll have sent me, and this is that converted to gigabytes, right? So this exceeds, oh no, okay. So if I have just one person on the highest tier, as soon as they exit the limit I have, I would still need to be paying extra money per GB. I hope that makes sense. So even if they were paying me the 140, as much as I would be covering costs on the VM 65, I still have additional costs for every extra gigabyte that they send to my system. And that's now baked into the pricing as well. Hopefully it's not too excessive. That's the hope. So yeah, anyway, I don't want to like do this math over math, too much math and paralyze myself into not doing it. So yes, this is what I have. I think I'm done. I don't think there's anything else I haven't covered. If there is, I'll probably cover that in my newsletter. You can go to wamaitha.co and subscribe. Yeah, that's it. If you need to buy something, for now, this is what I have. It's terrible, but you'll have to come all the way down here and make a payment. From the email you get, there'll be my WhatsApp number, my email, in case you face any problems. And yeah, ciao.